And we are now joined by one of the Anderson survivors included in the settlement, two-time Super Bowl champion Dwight Hicks and Jamie White, an attorney representing 78 of the survivors. Thank you both for joining us tonight. During this segment, we will be talking about sexual abuse and assault. Some viewers may find parts of the discussion triggering, so just want to give that heads up. Mr. Hicks, I'd like to start with you. You've spoken before about arriving at the University of Michigan as a hopeful 18-year-old dreaming of playing some football. How soon did the abuse start, and what impact has it had on your life?
It started early on, my freshman year, during a physical. I felt that something was wrong. I asked him what he was doing, and he said it was part of the physical. And I asked him if all the players were doing this, and he said, yeah. And if I didn't complete the physical, I wouldn't have been able to play football or go to school.
Mr. White, you represent dozens of the survivors in this settlement. What are they telling you today? Does this bring any real resolution to their years of pain and suffering?
You know, so these guys are really unique, Linsey, in the sense that, you know, some of the other cases I've worked on, there's been a lot of angst, a lot of anger, a lot of hate, you know, towards the institutions. These guys started out with the conversation that we're Michigan men and we do not want to permanently damage this university. We love this university. You know, we just want this university to be held accountable.
And Mr. Hicks, to that point that Mr. White just made, how are you? How are you coping and handling all of this in the aftermath?
It affects you psychologically, and you really don't know until this all plays out, and maybe you'll never know how much of an effect it has on you. This happened to me. I just felt something was wrong, so I think it has affected me quite a bit. I don't know to what extent, but I feel that the healing process can now begin.
Mm-hmm. And it would make sense. I guess I'm also curious, though, because for decades, you and most of the other survivors had to bear this suffering in private, unsure that there would ever be any kind of accountability. So what does the settlement and also the university's acknowledgement of their responsibility mean for you?
Well, I think it's a good day for all survivors of sexual abuse. I think that we have to have more legislation and make these powerful institutions accountable as far as not taking away from what had happened to us and not that not being the sole remedy for it. You have to hurt people in these institutions in the pocketbook. You have to levy heavy fines and laws to ensure that this doesn't happen.
Of course, you did go on to have an enormously successful career in the NFL, winning Super Bowls with the San Francisco 49ers. Why was it important for you to take such a public role in this case?
Our society tends to feel that, well, if it's a nobody, why should I care? But if it's somebody, you can bring a voice to it. And I just feel that because I had that notoriety, that I could bring a voice to it.
And Mr. White, what's the next step here?
This is going to go down in history as the most prolific act against African-American men in the history of the country. It wasn't only African-American men, but an extreme vast majority of the victims were African-American in this case. The next step is to continue through the legislative process like other states in the country have done, and expand the statute of limitations and create accountability on the part of people that have been reported to.
And so, of course, you see the settlement then as having a major impact in future cases of sexual abuse that involve large institutions such as universities and sports leagues.
I guarantee you that other institutions are seeing what happened last night and they're readdressing their policies and making sure that they're tight. And that's the purpose of this.
And Mr. Hicks, last question to you, because we've been talking about how, quite often in the case of a Dr. Nasser or Mr. Anderson, how they're intentionally preying on young, vulnerable people who might experience some shame. Was there ever a time when you and your teammates would talk about it, or was it too uncomfortable?
Oh, you don't talk about things like this. I felt embarrassed. There's so many different emotions that went through my head as far as what I had to do or what was done to me. And I just wanted to concentrate on school and playing football. And because I had that distraction, it's not until you're by yourself where you start to think about things, what happened, why did it happen, and furthermore, when we were kids, I thought that it was something that had to be done. I really didn't think it was sexual abuse until I started hearing more about it and other people talking about it, and I thought to myself, is that what happened to me? And yes, of course, that's what happened to me. But we have triggers and ways to suppress things, to hide the emotion, to be okay with it. And as I said earlier, this is just the beginning of the healing process.
Well, we so appreciate you speaking up and sharing your story with us. Thank you so much, Dwight Hicks, Jamie White, for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.